Hello, it's me. Now, if you don't know what I do and who I am, I just showed you. I like to break Spyro the Dragon. Well, all of the games, including like Reignited and stuff. I just like glitch hunting and trying to make things a little bit more viable. Same goes for Coveless, as you can see. I can do that decently consistent at least. So a lot of people have asked how how is that even possible, and I'll try to explain. It's not going to be a tutorial. It's going to be kind of explaining my thoughts, obviously, like trying to guide you through. But it's not going to be a tutorial because in my opinion it isn't fully developed. Like, yes, my setup is more consistent than what, for example, Tuval did. And I'll try to show you that, but it isn't fully developed yet, and I think there's still a lot of room to actually come up with something more consistent. So for now, I'm not going to do it tutorial-esque. Because we don't know everything about this yet, right? So a lot of people have asked me how many times I've done Coveless. A lot. 100 times probably. Around 100 times. And yeah, some people might say that's impressive, but I wouldn't say so, honestly. The thing is, also, like, people have asked me how much time I spend on this, on practicing this, and like trying to come up with stuff for this, right? And my answer would be, I don't know. It's less than the time I spent for Sprodder into Ripto, though. So think of that what you want. In my opinion, like, I'm still bad at this game. I'm like not consistent and I'm not like very comfortable with the game, but if I can do that, then probably people like Laura or Toasted Cat or whoever, who that's maybe even Dioman, right, can actually do that. So because they're like more comfortable with the movement in the game and stuff like that, and like probably also Vortex people because they're more like more experienced with wall gliding, right? But I'd say it's spent probably around 50 hours, maybe, on this. Like, it's hard to evaluate because I obviously don't count the time and stuff. Now, another question that people have is it consistent? And my answer to that is what I said at the start, and that's no. But it's more consistent than it was. It isn't as consistent as Sprodder, for example. If I spend the same amount of time on Sprodder into Ripto compared to Coveless, I would be more consistent as Sprodder by far. At least in a current stage of Coveless. Now, before we start, don't expect, like, if you follow this guide, don't expect to be ideal immediately, to like get it immediately even. Like, I spent a lot of time on that, and I know a lot of people think that once they see that and once they understand my like way of processing this trick, they will like immediately be able to get it. Not really. You need to be, like, for Rat, for example, you just need to be lucky, right? You just need this guy to like walk in a certain spot and just pray to gods. For this, you need to be insanely precise, and you need to experience different outcomes by yourself, because I can't do it justice in one video, so I'm not going to. So I'm going to show you what I do and kind of like also like alternatives that like alternatives, like something that I experience on my way, like different outcomes and stuff. So, let's start. The first thing you do is obviously wall glide. It isn't that difficult in my opinion. You like probably even the the least experienced people will be able to do that. You basically just hug this wall, not too much, just a little, you'll get enough height, right? And you get over here to this spot. Now, over here, this is like basically the most important part of the trick, because it's kind of like a domino effect. Like the way you do this part basically determines whether you will actually be able to do it or whether you will flop or not. So this is like quite important. Now, obviously what you do over here is you need to walk on this part, on this polygon over here. You can see very clearly where the polygon ends and where it starts. You kind of have like this and this, right? Over here. This is the polygon that you... Obviously there's also like a change of polygons over here, but like this is the part that you actually want to walk on, right? Now, basically you need to do a proxy over here. So you need to walk on this part, and when you get to like this point over here, as you see, I already got proxied upwards. There you go. So once you get to this part, you need to stop. If you go too far, you bonk. If you go too close, I can't even walk on this now, lol. If you go too close, nothing happens, right? So you need to be careful about that. Now, proxying upwards, in my opinion, depends on two things really. Position of Spyro the Dragon, so how he's positioned, like what part of the polygon he's on, and on what angle he's like, you know, facing. So he can face either a little bit more left, a little bit more straight, or a little bit more right. Now, all of this is really important because it actually impacts how you're going to get proxied. So this is like the most important part basically of this thing. So you can go like a little bit more left, as I said, so a little bit more in that direction, and you will get proxied one way. You can go a little bit more straight, and you will get proxied the other way, and you can go a little bit more to the right, and you will get proxied a different way. So it all depends on that. Also, it all depends, like if, for example, you go here, or if, for example, you go more to the left of this polygon. So it all impacts the proxy, the height of it, the way Spyro will be like turned after he gets proxied upwards, and also it depends on, let me show you, let's get up, there you go. It also depends on, it also impacts whether he will get proxied like closer to the wall over here, or he will get proxied like that, or maybe even that. It all impacts that. So this is why it's so important, because every small adjustment, every small like difference that you do on this wall that you walk on here will impact how you get proxied upwards and what position you will be after you reach the apex of that proxy, right? So for example, if I go like this, you can very clearly see how it looks, right? At the apex of this proxy. But if I go in a different spot and in under a different angle, if I can actually do that, like for example, if I go right to left, you can see this is also different. And I also got a different height of the proxy. I got a little lower, right? Now, the question that you might have on your mind is, does it matter whether you go left to right or straight or right to left, straight, or left to right? Does it matter whether you go like here or here or here? Doesn't matter. Yes, it matters, as I said, but doesn't matter like the final outcome, which is, can you actually do the next part from every single position? And the answer to that, in my opinion, would be yes. The problem is that every single time it's different. So obviously you can go like, one time you can go right to left, one time you can go left to right, whatever you want. It will work, but like it can work rather. But the problem with that is that obviously like the angle and the position of Spyro will be different, and thus your muscle memory will have to be different to actually initiate the next part. So so that's the problem about that, and this is the problem that I didn't manage to overcome yet, and I'm trying to find a consistent way to do this. So, like, if you want to find some consistent way, you just need to try different positions and angles by yourself. And go with something that is the most consistent for you. I will show you what is the most consistent for me, though. So, you can see this intersection of the polygons, which starts over here, right? You can see there is this line. I cannot draw, so you have this line and you have this line. So this is the intersection point. Now, this is how it looks, the polygon. So what I do is I go as close to this line as possible. So I go as close, as much left as I can, right? Now, when I reach around this point, so around where this bolt is, over here, I turn just a little right. I don't turn like that, or that. I turn like that. Very slight turn right. Okay? Now let's try this. And let's see what happens if you do that. Obviously, you need to stop in a right position, because otherwise you won't get proxied upwards at all. This is also why it's so precise, because you need to be really precise with your timing. If you spend a little bit more time holding square, you will bonk. A little bit too little time, nothing will happen. So as you can see, I got proxied above this polygon over here. Above this line over here, the intersection between this polygon and this polygon over here. And this is like the ideal height that I want to have. And if you go with that, so if you go like left and then turn right a little at the top, and if you aim, let me try to show you where I aim actually. If you aim, like, you can see those two bolts over here. There's one here and here. I try to go like in between them. Closer to the second one, to the right one even. Okay? So if you go here, you will actually get proxied upwards with basically the same height every single time. And that's like... that's the spot that I found. Obviously you can find something else by yourself. And maybe it will be more consistent, but this is like the most consistent I came up with. Now, Um, Now, this also impacts how Spyro is turned, because as you can see, he's facing a little bit more right, because we went right initially, right? So he's facing a little bit more into like this fin, this polygon over here. If you go like right to left, he will be facing a little bit more here, into like this part of the wall. If you go straight, he will be facing like into this part of the wall. So it all impacts that. And all of these can work. They just require different muscle memory, and that's the problem about this trick. Now, that's the first part done. We need to move into the second part, which is obviously linked to that, because it all depends on what position, angle, and height Spyro is at. And the second part is the hook. Now, what is the hook? So basically, once you get proxied upwards, let me try to get it again, and turn my camera at the same time. Once you get proxied upwards, and you're at the like peak of your jump, of your height, I like to turn my camera. Okay. I like to turn my camera, and you can see this is the wall. This is like the polygon. This is the polygon that you want to wall glide off of. Okay? Now, it's very important to start. You can see this is the intersection point of the polygons over here. You want to start as soon as possible. You want to start wall gliding as soon as possible. So you want to start literally here. If you start like here or something, you might not get enough height to actually continue the trick. And that's the problem, right? So this is like the angle and the position and height of Spyro that I found to be the most consistent. Because after I reach this point, after I reach the apex of my jump, of my proxy, what I do is I start gliding, obviously, at the apex of my proxy, and I start turning my camera in this direction, so left, and I hold up left on my D-pad actually. I use D-pad for the first phase, like for this part of the trick, for a reason that I will explain later. So let me try to get a decent proxy, and I'll show you why that's important. So as you can see, I had a little bit too little height, so I flopped. Because like the angle of the wall was different in that spot, so I flopped there because I didn't have enough height. Now I'm struggling a lot. It will take a while. Come on, that was really good. I just didn't get a proxy. That's the reality of things. Okay, so I don't know why I pause buffered. You don't pause buffer that part. You just get to the apex of your jump. I can even go there. Why? Okay, hold on. I'm just dumb. It will take a while. Oh my god. And there you go, something like that, but again, my angle was like, even the smallest differences in your angle and position will impact that. So keep that in mind. This is why it's like so inconsistent. This part is why the trick itself is inconsistent. Because like, even the smallest change in your position and angle will impact the height of the proxy and your position after the proxy and stuff like that. So that's sadly the inconsistent part, kind of. And there you go. That's kind of what you want to do, but I'm too low here, so this isn't even going to work. Now, the problem about this is once you reach the apex of your jump, which is here, once you reach the apex of your jump and you press X and start turning your camera, it's this one. It's very important when you let go of your up left, because you need to do that, and the saddest part about that is that it's all up to your muscle memory. So you need to be doing that a lot. You need to be actually doing that a lot. To like train your muscle memory so you're comfortable with when you should let go of your up left. I usually do that a little before I start hugging the wall, like that. That was really good. And the hook is the hook also was like correct in that spot. And the hook is important because the hook is what gives you the required amount of height from the wall glide. Now, where do you want to actually end up? So, to summarize first, I don't do anything. I just start turning my camera and hold up left until I'm like comfortable with my muscle memory. So basically, shortly before I know I'm hugging the wall. That's like the spot. Now, where do I want to end up? I want to end up... Can you see those like fins? Those scales a little on the side of the dragon head. Like they're here, something like that, right? So this is the darker one, kind of. That's what I call. And if Spyro is like in the middle of it, that means it will work. Well, it has a chance to work. So that's the spot. If you are high enough so that you're like in the middle of this little scale over here, that means you have enough height to actually continue with the trick. Now, I will explain two things. First is why do I do this trick, as well as like when I go around the corner, I just hold right on my D-pad, okay? So why do I do that, you might ask? And not on my like analog, right? Well, the thing is that it's more consistent, simply as that. Because analog obviously has many different configurations, like you can turn a little bit more, you can turn a little bit less. It also varies when you switch between left and right. It isn't like immediate, it isn't like that. You just need to... it's just like, the transition is a little bit more smooth, which you don't really want in that trick. Because it wastes the valuable, time that you have. So that's why I use, because it's sharper. It's sharper and the results are more consistent because of that. Because like, obviously if you look at my input viewer, you can have like up left like this, right? But you can have it like this, or like this, or, everywhere over here. And this is different every single time. And if you press up left like that, it's the same result every single time. So that's why I like it more. And also when you go over here and you transition from like left to right, you obviously have to go like that. So the transition is smoother. And it takes more time. But if you go that and that, the transition is a little bit more sharper and it gives you like better hooks and better turns around the corner, right? That's why I do that. Now, the second thing is, a lot of people tend to pause buffer this corner, like around this corner, and I don't do that. Why don't I do that? Well, the thing is, this wall guide is too short, and there's too little visual cues to actually adjust yourself mid this wall glide. And this is why I don't like it. I don't like post buffering here because you don't have that much time and that much knowledge of how you should adjust yourself during this wall glide. A lot of people like to do wall glides over here when they get to this point so that they know when to start turning around this corner, because obviously the next part is to start turning around this corner over here. I just flopped off. So a lot of people like to do that. I don't like doing that because, in my opinion, every result is different. I haven't fully understood. Yeah. Well, I just don't understand fully if there's like some. I don't know if there's some consistency to like visual cues compared to visual cues that are useful to like seeing what angle you're under and what you basically want to do over here, right? So I haven't found any consistency, basically what I'm saying, and this is why I don't like doing it, because like very often basically like whether you flop or have too little height is dependent on two things. Having too little height is if you are going too much to the left, your angle is too shallow. If your angle is too sharp, you will just flop around this corner. So you need to have this like sweet spot, and I haven't found any visual cues for that sweet spot. So very often I just hope for the best. That's what I do. And it all depends on the muscle memory as well. Very often if you have good hook, so this part from like there to like here, if you have this part good and you have enough height, it doesn't even matter when you start turning. You can like even go behind this corner and then start turning, and you will usually make it if you have enough height. So it doesn't matter that much. All that matters is this goddamn fucking proxy. That's what it matters. And as you can see, I started turning too fast here. Obviously, it also matters when you start turning. If you start turning too fast, you will obviously flop. Like, there's no, doubts about that. You will obviously just flop. But if your angle is too sharp, you will flop naturally. You have like no way of saving that, as you can see, for that one. Obviously, like if there was a visual cue, you could adjust yourself. So you could do like that. Go a little bit left and then start turning. But there is no consistent visual cue that I found yet. So that's what I do. Now, when we get to this point, I basically I don't have enough height here, so it isn't going to work. But I'm just going to show you what's happening. So when you get to this point, obviously you need to trust your muscle memory. That's what I do. Maybe you can find some consistent setup, and I don't blame you, because I obviously don't know everything about this trick yet. If what you want to do essentially is you want to start turning your camera right. So like there. And at the same time you want to start pressing right, so like that. As you can see with my controller. Like at the same time. When you feel confident. Now, why do I do that? So if we go to this state again, Let me try to get a decent one now. Come on. Too late. This part is the worst, I swear. And there you go. And I essentially pause buffer immediately when I see this bump over here. This is the godforsaken bump over here. That's the one. When I see this bump, that's when I do my first pause buffer and I stop turning my camera. I also let go of my right input. Basically, this is the position. So now, something that you need to know when you turn around this corner is whether how to tell whether your height is good enough or not. So you can see this bump over here. This is the bump, right? If Spyro, like if his head is above this over here, it's going to work. Like, at least it has a chance of working. Because this part, this polygon over here, this bump over here, this is solid. And it actually is angled in a way that if you hug it enough, it will give you height. Okay? So like, if this is going to work. The position that I'm like in currently is going to work. I know that for a fact. Because Spyro's head is on like the level of this bump. So I know it's going to work. If your height though is, for example, so this also is going to work, because as you can see, his head is on the level of this bump. Obviously it varies, but you can see this bump over here. The angle here is way different than in the attempt I got, right? But this is the bump. And you can see this is like the polygon interception, and this is the bump. And his head is on the level of this bump, so it's going to work. Now, if it's like that, where this bump is like this, you can very clearly see that there is some distance between Spyro's head and this bump over here. So this has no chance of working ever. So if I let go of that, no height whatsoever. But if I go here, I flopped here. As you can see, I actually got height. I'm flopping here, but I actually got height, right? And now, what's important? I basically pause buffer. You need to be kind of parallel to it. Let me try to turn my camera a little. Okay, there you go. So, you need to be a little, like you need to be gliding along this polygon. You need to be gliding along it. You cannot face into it, because if you face into it too much, you will flop, obviously. If you face too much to the left, so that you're not hugging the wall as much, you will not get enough height. So you need to be gliding along it, and you need to be very precise with that. So, as you can see, Spyro is just gliding along. And here, I can see that Spyro is facing a little bit much left when he is literally next to this corner over here. When he is next to this corner, if he's facing too much to it, you will flop. There's no way that you will actually save it. You will flop. So you need, when you're approaching, when you feel like you're next to this corner, it's not even feel, you can see that I'm next to this corner very clearly. You need to do a little adjustment on your controller, which is a little bit left. Just, here I use analog, because analog, as I said, is, you know, a little bit more softer. You can do very small, like, nudges of your analog, and you will turn a little bit less, because you need to do micro adjustments. You don't need to be like turning sharp or anything. You just need micro adjustments. So you just go like that. And now I can very clearly see when Spyro's like wing is like past this corner, I know that I'm basically safe to keep turning into the wall now. So I could like just go, as you can see, I could just go, I think, yeah, the thing about this one is hard to adjust, kind of, because this is perfect. This is kind of perfect. As you can see, if I can pause it, like I'm not even facing into this corner that much. I'm just like gliding along it, right? So I'm not flopping here. So basically, once you're like past this, you can start turning into the wall. So his wing is in the, like, not even like past this corner. Like if it's like before that, like if his head is past this corner, basically, which is hard to say from this angle because obviously, like, you know, 3D and shit. But you can start turning your Spyro into the wall now because you like. This is after you turn around this corner, this polygon is still angled like that. So you will keep gaining height if you're there. Okay? And if Spyro is like that, that will work. In fact, you can see that I like clipped through the collision there. Now I can start turning. Oh, okay, I was a little bit... There you go. So you need to be careful about that, but it isn't that bad. Genuinely. I can start turning, see? And there you go. Now, you need to be careful, because if you face too much into this wall, you will flop again. So you need to be careful over here. But this is actually a little bit more lenient, because the only thing that you need to do here is face a little bit, like straighten yourself. So face this pillar that is over here. This pillar. This one, right? You just need to face it, so you need to fix your position for this one. And this isn't that bad. Anyway, just go like... And there you go. Now I won't flop and I will, basically if I glide along, I just let Spyro glide for a little while and I just charge. That's all I do. There's also the Tuval version. And the Tuval version actually is very difficult because it requires very good height from the proxy and also very good hook. I'm probably not going to showcase you that, but basically I'll try to kind of show you what's going on, so probably it will be better here. So basically this polygon, let me turn my camera actually, this polygon over here is kind of like that. It's made up of two polygons kind of, right? Let me draw that better. It's hard to evaluate. Probably if someone had like a program of like showing the visibility of polygons and shit, it would be better. Okay, that's kind of fine. So this polygon over here, it's solid. This over here, it's solid. This isn't solid. So the thing is that when you turn around the corner, if you have like enough height, I don't even know if it's like that. It's probably different. It's probably something like that. And maybe like this is like different over here. I don't know. I don't know how this polygon looks. But basically like, if you're like here, this is solid. But if you're like higher over here, this isn't solid. So if you have enough height to clip through that, you can just like immediately go over here and skip the entire part of going around this bump and blah blah blah, right? And this is like the faster version, and you can do that in fact, but it requires like everything perfect basically. That's what Tuval did in his PB by pure coincidence, I think, and that's how you can do the fastest version. But it's very unlikely unless there is a setup that that basically like allows that to be more consistent. But I haven't found it. Maybe it will be found eventually. And anything else is basically up to you, up to how much time you want to spend on it, up to how much you want to practice it, up to how much you want to, up to how much precision you want to have when it comes to that, right? Also, when it comes to that, if you feel comfortable, you can do it without any pulse buffers. I just find it to be more consistent. You can do it without. I'll try to do it over here, but you essentially can do that. You just need to have your muscle memory engraved, kind of. So you can practice it, and you can also do it bufferless if you feel confident. I don't, so I don't do that. So I'll try to do it, but I don't know if I'll be able to. There you go. So you can do it bufferless, right? But it's hard to do it in one segment, kind of. You need to, like, your angle needs to be good, and you need to be confident with everything that you do, every input and shit like that. So it isn't that bad, but at the same time it's just more risk. So I do not recommend that. There you go. But those are my thoughts, essentially. Those are my thoughts, and they are very convoluted, and probably very little of you are going to actually understand what's happening. Which I'm sorry for that, but if any one of you who actually want to learn it and I like skipped something or I didn't explain it clearly enough, want to like kind of learn it and want like something explained a little better and stuff, you can probably do it, because as I said, there's no script, there's nothing. I just like went into it and started like explaining things from what from my experience, kind of. So it is hard to actually explain it like on the fly, but I did my best. I tried my best, and that's all I came up with. So if you have any questions, like I can further elaborate on some of the topics touched in this video. And yeah, that's all there is to it. You just need to be insanely precise. Like if I now I'll do a couple of attempts, and I'll maybe I'll like find something to like, for example, for this one I turned too late, and also my hook wasn't perfect. So this is why I had like this is why the first part matters so much, right? Because like if your proxy isn't good enough and your angle is a little different and stuff like that, your hook will give you too little height, so that even when you like have good angle on the first wall glide, and if you like turn around the corner well, you will just have too little initial height to actually continue the wall glide. That's the problem with that, right? So you need to take that under consideration. Like if you're as you can see, my position was a little bit too much to the left, so when I got proxied upwards and I was facing right, I couldn't turn in time. That was pretty good. And the hook was also really good, but my angle was too sharp on the wall, and this is why I flopped. It wasn't even like the it wasn't even the that I started turning too early or anything like that. It was just my angle, my initial angle on the wall was too sharp, and this is why I flopped. Yeah, I'll just like, this is kind of like some troubleshooting. This was really good. The hook over here was really good. The angle was really good because because I didn't flop, but I also didn't lose any height on that wall glide, on that first wall glide. And also I turned around the corner like turning around the corner is probably the least like impactful part. The only thing that matters is the height of your proxy and whether your hook and the wall glide, the first wall glide before the turning around the corner is correct. If all of that is correct, then turning around the corner is like the least impactful part, kind of. You still need to be somewhat, in the right like timing window, but it isn't that, precise, let's say. So as you can see, Spyro's head, again, just to go over it, Spyro's head, this is the corner, and he is on the... This is on, like, his head is on its level. So that means I have enough height and I can continue. But over here, he's facing a little bit much into the wall, so I need to adjust myself so that I go a little bit left, as you can see. And now my angle is pretty straight, and this is good. And if I didn't flop, but I started turning right, but if I didn't flop over here, I would have continued and I would have succeeded with that. But all of this is just like, you need to feel it out, but that's like my thought process on that, right? And as you can see, like all of that I explained in this video is what I use, and it is consistent. At least the second part is very consistent. You just need to be kind of precise with your inputs and right with your correct rather with your assumptions of like Spyro's angle and his position. But apart from that, is this 100% consistent? You just need to be confident. And I flopped. I started turning too early here, but yeah, that was also good. That also would have worked. So yeah, that's all I have to basically add. I don't think there's anything I want to add anymore, and yeah, that's all I do with my Coveless. As you can see, it's mostly based on muscle memory and assumptions. And this is why it's so inconsistent yet, because it requires a lot of like knowledge and like that gut feeling, which comes with experience. You cannot just like one-shot it. Obviously, you can fluke it. Like anyone can fluke it basically, if they're lucky with their inputs. But like if you experience the trick itself, and like different outcomes of the proxies, of the wall glides, of the like camera turns, and every single assumption that you have, it will change depending on that, and you will be able to adjust mid trick. The only thing that isn't very consistent is this first proxy and the wall glide, and I will try at least to come up with something more consistent than that. But for now, this is the best I could do. So take that as you will, and if you want to do that in a run, the only thing that you need to do is practice. You just need to do it as much as you can, so that you experience different outcomes and stuff. This is why I think doing that. Like if you are not experienced, if you're good at the game but you're not experienced with the trick itself, you won't be able to be as consistent as, for example, I am, even though I am like depressingly low. My consistency is depressingly low, but it is probably the most consistent anyone has ever been at this trick. But even if you're good at the game, you won't be immediately consistent. You need to actually experience the differences of different parts of this trick, and that's what I'm going to end on. I think I have nothing else to add. And if you have any questions, you can either DM me or talk about that in Spyro 1 channel in Spyro Speedrunning Discord. Thank you. Love you.